My brothers and sisters, stop worrying. Yes, you heard that right. Stop worrying, because every time you worry, you're trying to take control of something you were never created to carry. Worry is a heavy burden. It eats away at your faith, it weakens your spirit, it clouds your vision, and yet we hold on to it as if it's helping us. We pace, we panic, we lose sleep, we lose peace. Worry is a weight you were never created to carry. Yet so many walk around with it strapped tightly to their shoulders, pressed down by invisible burdens that exhaust the soul. Worry disguises itself as responsibility, as planning, as preparedness, but it drains life rather than sustaining it. It whispers lies in the mind, echoing worst-case scenarios, twisting possibilities into threats, and robbing the present moment of peace. It's subtle, it's constant, and it becomes a way of life until we forget what it's like to feel truly free. People wake up and their first thoughts are anxious ones. How will I make it through this day? What if things fall apart? What if I fail? What if they leave? What if I lose everything I've built? But you were never meant to live in that state of internal tension. That is not the design of someone led by divine peace. That is the voice of fear disguising itself as wisdom. There is a difference between wisdom and worry. Wisdom prepares, worry panics. Wisdom moves with discernment, worry moves with desperation. And when you let worry lead, you end up building a life around fear instead of faith. Every decision becomes about protection rather than purpose. Every relationship becomes about control rather than connection. Every dream becomes something fragile, something you're too afraid to reach for in case you fail. And in the end, the weight grows heavier, not lighter. Worry does not solve problems, it multiplies them. It magnifies them in your mind, giving power to things that haven't even happened. It robs you twice, once in your imagination and once in your reality. You were never created to live with that kind of pressure. You were never meant to carry the future, the outcomes, the what-ifs. That's why so many people break down, not because life is harder for them than others, but because they've carried things their soul was never equipped to hold. You can tell yourself that it's normal, that everyone worries, that it's part of being human, but that doesn't make it right. That doesn't mean it's your portion. You were created to live in divine rest. Not laziness, not passivity, but rest. A state where your mind is anchored, your heart is stable, and your spirit is not constantly on edge waiting for the next crisis. Rest is not the absence of storms, it is the presence of unshakable trust in the middle of them. And that trust can only come when you stop carrying what was never yours to carry, the outcomes, the timing, the opinions of others, the endless questions that begin with what if. You don't have to know everything to move forward. You don't have to control everything to be safe. You don't have to have the answers to be at peace. But as long as you try to be your own source of security, you'll always feel unstable. As long as you try to carry the weight of your own future, you'll always feel anxious. You weren't created for that. You were created to live by faith, to move in step with a higher wisdom, to trust that even when you can't see what's ahead, you're being led by someone who can. It's not that the burdens of life disappear. It's that they are lifted off your shoulders and placed into the hands of someone greater. You still have to walk, still have to show up, still have to make decisions, but now you're not doing it from a place of pressure. You're doing it from a place of peace, because your heart is no longer ruled by the fear of what might go wrong. It is grounded in the belief that you are not walking alone, that your path is known even when it feels hidden. That there is purpose in the process, even when it feels painful, that you are guided by wisdom, not driven by worry. When you carry worry long enough, it becomes familiar, almost like a companion. You don't even realize how much space it's taking up until you experience peace and remember what it feels like to breathe freely. Worry shrinks your world. It makes you afraid to step out, to speak up, to try, to trust. It keeps you locked in cycles of doubt and hesitation, and over time, it disconnects you from your purpose, your people, and your peace. You begin to settle for a smaller life because you've convinced yourself it's safer that way. But safety without purpose is not peace, it's prison. You weren't born to play it safe. You weren't born to stay anxious. You weren't born to carry burdens you were never designed to hold. Control is an illusion. True strength is in surrender. So many spend their lives chasing control, believing that if they can just manage every detail, predict every outcome, and avoid every risk, they'll finally be safe. It becomes a lifestyle, a mindset, even a personality trait. The need to control disguises itself as responsibility, as leadership, as maturity, but underneath it is fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of loss. And that fear drives people to hold on tightly to things they were never meant to grip so hard. Relationships, finances, timelines, reputation, everything becomes a project to manage rather than a gift to receive. The more you try to control, the more anxious you become, because deep down, you know you can't actually control everything. You can't control the weather, you can't control other people's decisions, you can't control the timing of breakthroughs, and you can't force open doors that were never meant for you. And when things slip out of your hands, as they always do, panic sets in. Not because you failed, but because your hope was built on an illusion. Control was never real. It was just a fragile wall you built to protect yourself from pain. But pain still comes. Disappointment still comes. Life still surprises you, and every time that happens, the illusion of control starts to crumble. That's not a sign of weakness. That's a moment of truth. A moment to see things as they are, not as you wish they were. Because the moment you realize control is an illusion, you can finally choose a better way. Not passivity, not carelessness, but surrender. Surrender is not giving up. It's giving over. It's saying, I don't have to carry this alone. I don't have to figure this out in my strength. I don't have to be the answer to every problem I face. Surrender is powerful. It's not passive. It's intentional. It's when you choose peace over pressure. It's when you choose to trust what you can't see instead of being tormented by what you can't control. True strength is not in micromanaging your life. It's in admitting your limits and trusting in something greater than yourself. It's easy to look strong when everything is going your way, when all your plans are working, when your timeline is on track. But real strength shows when things fall apart and you don't lose your peace. Real strength shows when you're facing uncertainty and you still choose to move forward without fear. People think that surrender means letting go of dreams, but surrender actually makes space for the right dreams to live. It makes space for grace to flow where anxiety once ruled. It allows joy to rise where stress once dominated. When your hands are open in surrender, you're no longer clutching what you think you need. You're available to receive what is actually meant for you, and sometimes what's meant for you looks different than what you planned, but it fits better than anything you could have crafted on your own. The more you try to control, the more you limit what can happen. You limit how solutions can come, you limit how blessings can arrive, you limit how healing can take place. Surrender breaks those limits. It opens your life to divine timing, divine provision, divine alignment. It invites peace to replace panic, and peace is not found in having everything figured out. It's found in knowing you don't have to. That's the paradox. The more you surrender, the more secure you actually feel. Not because you're in control, but because you know who is. You don't need to control the storm to have peace in it. You don't need to control people to feel valued. You don't need to control outcomes to walk in purpose. The strength that holds you up in life doesn't come from your ability to manipulate circumstances. It comes from your willingness to lay them down and trust that what's meant for you will never miss you, and what isn't can never stay. God's silence is not his absence. He is always working. It is in those moments when heaven feels quiet, when prayers seem to echo back with no reply, when nothing around you seems to change, that doubt begins to whisper, You start wondering if you're forgotten, if you're being ignored, if maybe you did something wrong to deserve the silence. The human heart struggles with quiet. We crave immediate reassurance, visible signs, quick answers, and when they don't come, we assume absence. But silence is not the same as abandonment. Silence is often a part of the process, not the end of the story. In fact, some of the deepest, most transformative work happens in the silence. When God seems quiet, it is often because He is doing something within you before He does something around you. The soil doesn't make noise when seeds are breaking open and roots are forming, but that doesn't mean growth isn't happening. In the same way, the silent seasons in life are often the ones where your faith is being grounded, your character refined, your heart strengthened. Silence is not a punishment, it's preparation. It's easy to trust when you hear constant confirmation. It's easy to believe when you see signs and wonders, but true faith is built in the dark. True faith is when you keep walking even when there's no voice guiding your every step. It's when you keep showing up even when nothing looks different. It's when you pray without evidence, hope without signs, and worship without feeling. Because deep down, something in your spirit knows that silence does not mean separation. It means trust. It means something is being formed in you that can't be rushed. We often associate movement with progress, but some of God's greatest works are invisible and internal. He heals hearts in silence. He removes toxic desires in silence. He restores identity in silence. He works behind the curtain, arranging what you cannot see, aligning what you don't even know you need. Just because you don't hear Him doesn't mean He's not speaking. He might be speaking through your circumstances, through your discomfort, through the people around you, or He might simply be inviting you to listen differently, not with your ears, but with your spirit. Silence also exposes where your faith really lies. Are you trusting the outcome, or are you trusting the one who holds it? Are you following your feelings, or are you anchored in truth? When the emotional highs are gone and the noise fades, that's when the real test begins. And it's in that space that you begin to grow from surface level belief to unshakable confidence. You stop relying on constant signs and start standing on promises. You stop looking for temporary reassurance and start developing a lasting trust. When God is silent, it creates space for you to reflect, to draw closer, to deepen your roots. It's in the silence that you learn to stop striving and start listening. It's in the silence that you realize He's been closer than you thought, not always loud, but always present. The quiet moments are not void of meaning. They are full of unseen movement. Stillness is not stagnation. Stillness is where you discover that God doesn't need to shout to lead you. Sometimes He leads through peace, through still waters, through the subtle guidance of a surrendered heart. The most powerful breakthroughs often come after long seasons of silence. The doors you've been praying for suddenly open, but only after you've learned to trust even when they remained closed. The clarity you've been seeking arrives, but only after you've learned to walk without it. The healing you've been waiting for manifests, but only after you've allowed the silence to shape you. The silence doesn't mean He's doing nothing. It means He's doing something deeper. Something that can't be rushed or explained or always seen from the outside. Faith means trusting God's plan even when it doesn't make sense. This is the part of the journey where logic no longer leads and sight no longer confirms. It's when the path becomes unfamiliar, when the steps feel shaky, when your surroundings contradict your spirit. Faith is not about comfort, it's about confidence in the unseen. It's standing in the middle of chaos and believing there's still a divine order at work. It's moving forward when everything in you wants to retreat. It's holding on when everything around you is falling apart. It's choosing to believe when there are no guarantees, no signs, no visible outcomes. There comes a moment when everything in your life seems to go against what you hoped for, and yet deep down you still believe. Not because it makes sense, but because your spirit knows there's more. Faith isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet decision to keep going. It's not always emotional. Sometimes it's just choosing to stay grounded. It's not always a feeling. Sometimes it's a choice made through tears and questions. Trusting God's plan means giving up your right to understand everything. It means letting go of the need to control the process, the timing, the way things should unfold. You don't need faith when everything is clear and predictable. You need it when the road is uncertain, when the answers are delayed, when the process is painful. Trusting God's plan means believing there's purpose in the delay, beauty in the brokenness, and meaning in the silence. It means that even when you're misunderstood, even when others question your path, even when you question it yourself, you still choose to believe that you're being led, not by accident, not by coincidence, but by divine design. Every step, even the missteps, are being used to shape something bigger than your current view. Faith doesn't promise ease, it promises alignment. It means that even when it looks like you're going backward, you're actually being positioned for something greater. It means that detours aren't the end of the road, but part of the process. It means that closed doors are not rejection, but redirection. There is a purpose behind every pause and a plan behind every setback. Faith is trusting that even the things that don't feel good are working for your good. It's believing that what you cannot see is more real than what you can, and this kind of trust will stretch you. It will challenge your desire for certainty. It will test your patience. It will reveal the places in you that still want to control outcomes, but it will also transform you. It will shape your character. It will strengthen your endurance. It will deepen your capacity for hope. Trusting God's plan teaches you to live above the surface, to see beyond circumstances, to anchor your soul in something unshakable. It's what separates momentary happiness from lasting peace. It's what carries you through storms, not because you avoided them, but because you were grounded in something greater than the wind. Trusting His plan means you no longer measure progress by speed or success by visibility. It means you start valuing obedience over outcome. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is staying the course when everything tells you to quit. Sometimes the greatest faith you show is not in bold declarations, but in quiet consistency. You keep believing, you keep showing up, you keep trusting, not because you have every answer, but because you believe in the one who does. It's easy to praise when the path is clear, when the provision flows, when the answers come quickly. But the depth of your trust is revealed in the waiting, in the struggle, in the confusion. Trusting God's plan doesn't mean you won't have questions. It means your questions don't control your direction. It means your faith is louder than your fear. It means your hope refuses to die even in the face of uncertainty. The crushing is part of your calling and preparation. So often we want the promise without the process, the crown without the cross, the platform without the pressure. But the truth is, everything great must go through breaking. There is no oil without the olive being crushed, no wine without the grapes being pressed, no gold without the fire. We want destiny, but we forget that destiny is shaped in dark rooms, not in the spotlight. The crushing seasons feel like something is going wrong, but they are the very moments when something deeper is going right. It's in the crushing that pride is broken, ego is stripped, motives are purified, and faith is refined. The crushing reveals what's real and removes what was only surface. When life begins to press down on you, when relationships fall apart, when plans collapse, when doors close without explanation, it can feel like you're being punished. But you're not being punished, you're being prepared. Pain is not always a sign of wrong direction. Sometimes it's a sign of divine construction. Something is being built in you that can't be formed any other way. The crushing teaches you how to pray deeper, how to stand longer, how to listen more carefully, how to depend more fully. It takes you to the end of yourself so you can discover the beginning of true strength. The crushing strips away every false identity and every illusion of control until all that's left is the pure version of who you were created to be. You may not see the purpose in the moment, but one day you'll look back and understand why certain things had to break. You'll understand why certain people had to leave, why certain doors didn't open, why the timing had to shift. The crushing produces clarity. It forces you to ask hard questions. Who am I without the applause? Who am I without the plan working out? Who am I when all I can do is trust? And in that place, something sacred happens. You begin to see that what you thought was killing you was actually the very thing saving you. Not saving your comfort, but saving your calling. Not saving your plan, but saving your purpose. Every great calling comes with great crushing. You cannot carry a heavy mantle with weak character. You cannot lead others until you've first been led through the fire. You cannot pour out until you've been poured into through pressure. The crushing humbles you. It refines your yes. It teaches you the cost of obedience. It shows you that success without surrender is empty. That influence without integrity is dangerous. That elevation without preparation is a setup for failure. The crushing is where you learn how to steward pain, how to keep your heart soft when life feels hard, how to trust when nothing makes sense. And in those moments when everything around you is shaking, something unshakable is being formed in you. You start to realize that endurance is a gift, not a burden, that resilience is birthed in struggle, that compassion grows in pain, that wisdom develops in silence. You begin to carry not just your own dreams, but the weight of others with grace and understanding. You begin to walk not with arrogance, but with a quiet authority that only comes from surviving what should have broken you. You become rooted, you become unmovable, you become aware that this crushing was not the end, it was the doorway. The ones who are used most powerfully are often the ones who have been broken the most deeply, not because they're special, but because they allowed the crushing to produce something eternal. They didn't run from the fire, they let it refine them. They didn't resist the pressing, they surrendered to the process. They understood that the crushing is not where the story ends, but where the real story begins. It's the birthplace of oil, of wisdom, of purpose, of power, of purity. And though it doesn't feel good, it is good because it transforms you into someone who doesn't just carry a calling. You become someone who carries the weight of it with grace, with humility, and with unshakable conviction. Peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of God in the middle of them. Many spend their lives chasing peace as if it's a destination, a place where nothing goes wrong, where everything is predictable, where no challenges arise and no storms come. But that version of peace doesn't exist on earth. Life is full of interruptions, disappointments, heartbreaks, and moments that don't make sense. Peace is not found in the removal of chaos, but in the ability to remain grounded and unshaken while standing in the middle of it. True peace is internal, not external. It's not what surrounds you that defines peace, it's what sustains you in the middle of it. This kind of peace can't be manufactured by routine, by self-help affirmations, or by trying to control your environment. It's something deeper. It's not the calm that comes when everything is calm. It's the calm that stays even when everything else falls apart. It's the kind of peace that guards your heart and mind even when your world feels like it's crumbling. It's the stillness that flows from knowing you're not alone, from knowing that you are being held even when you feel like letting go. This peace comes not from having the answers, but from knowing the one who does. It's not rooted in clarity but in trust, not in certainty but in presence. People often think peace means they must fix everything quickly, solve every problem, and avoid all confrontation. But peace is not always passive. Peace can exist in the middle of a storm, in the middle of a battle, in the middle of grief, and in the middle of uncertainty. Peace is not about pretending everything is fine. It's not about numbing your emotions or ignoring pain. It's about being honest with your struggle while being anchored in a truth greater than your struggle. It's about knowing that storms don't cancel your purpose, and that God is not threatened by your questions, your fears, or your weakness. Real peace is not fragile, it's not easily shaken, it doesn't collapse under pressure, it actually grows stronger in resistance. You discover peace not when life stops being hard, but when you stop being ruled by fear. Peace enters when you let go of the illusion that you must carry everything on your own shoulders. It's what comes when you stop striving to earn love and begin to receive it. When you stop trying to figure everything out and start trusting even when things don't add up. Peace doesn't mean your emotions disappear. It means your emotions don't get the final say. You can cry and still have peace. You can be frustrated and still have peace. You can be confused and still be grounded in a deep, unexplainable stillness. Because peace is not the absence of struggle, it's the presence of God walking with you through it. It's what carried people through deserts, through valleys, through prisons, through storms, not because they were strong, but because they were not alone. The presence of peace does not deny reality. It brings a greater reality into the middle of what you're facing. It declares that even here, even now, you are held, you are seen, and you are not forsaken. This peace is what enables you to keep showing up when you feel like disappearing. It's what allows you to stay kind in the face of cruelty, to forgive when you've been wronged, to love when you feel empty. This kind of peace isn't born in comfort. It's forged in fire. It grows when you've been tested and still choose to trust, when you've been hurt and still choose to heal, when you've been overlooked and still choose to serve. Peace is not a reward for those who have no problems. It's a gift for those who are willing to walk through problems with a surrendered heart, with a spirit that refuses to let chaos win, and with a mind that's been trained to rest in something greater than understanding. Stop worrying and let God lead you, because your worry cannot add a single solution, but your surrender can unlock divine direction. When you let go of control, you make space for God to take over. When you release the burden of always having to know, to fix, to calculate every outcome, you step into the peace that surpasses all understanding. You weren't designed to carry everything, solve everything, or understand everything. You were created to trust, to walk by faith, to lean not on your own understanding, but to acknowledge Him in all your ways. Worry will drain your strength, but trust will renew it. Worry will cloud your vision, but surrender will give you clarity. Worry will keep you stuck in what-ifs, but faith will carry you into what's next. God doesn't need your fear, He wants your faith. He doesn't require perfection, He desires obedience. He leads not through anxiety, but through assurance. Not through pressure, but through peace. So choose today to silence the fear, to quiet the doubt, and to boldly declare with your life that you are done carrying what God never asked you to carry. Lay it down. Let it go. Let Him lead. He knows the way. He sees the end from the beginning. And if you let Him take the lead, He'll take you further than worry ever could.